Hey guys, welcome to the Ramsey Paul Show. I hit the live button. I didn't even see it went live. So it's good to be here at 9:42. In an hour and 42 minutes is the first day of summer solstice. So exciting. That means the days will slowly start to get longer or shorter. So we're at the peak right now. And I hope you guys are doing well. It's got hot here. We're in the summer. And thank you for being here, Hillbilly Wrap-Up. And as usual, if you want to support the show, there's Powerchats, there's SuperChats on YouTube, and Rumble has Rants. Streamelements, it stopped working again. I don't know what's up with Streamelements. So I don't have the Streamelements tip feature. But if you do a Super Chat or a Rant or a Power Chat, that will be fine. So I do appreciate that. All right, let me just see if everything's set up here good. It is. So yeah, I kind of got behind because I was trying to debug the Streamelements. It was working. Then I had a problem last week, and now that problem has come back. I get tired of these things just breaking. It just pisses me off. There's always something, right? You got it working, then it just breaks. You got to spend your time trying to figure out this nonsense. I'm like, I'm about to say to hell with it with Streamelements. It's more hassle than it's worth at this point. But I will take a look at it probably tomorrow. So anyway, welcome to the Hillbilly Wrap-Up. And with this show, what we do, we look at the news, some of the news of the week, what's the key news. And we've had a good week this week. Tuesday, Z-Man and I had our Wednesday wrap-up. We had our Wednesday wrap-up on Tuesday because it looked like we may be in a war with Iran. And now that's up in the air. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But thank you for Z-Man for that. We will be back next week on probably Wednesday, unless something dramatic happens. And I don't know what our subject will be. Probably depends what's in the news, what the hot topic is. So that was great. And earlier this week, I had a great show on Monday and Tuesday. I think it was. Yeah. So thank you guys for that. Monday and Tuesday are bonus shows. If I hit my goal, if I make like $50 today, I will do a Monday show. And I already got a power chat for $3 by ETNM. Hi, Rams. Did you celebrate Juneteenth? Did you reflect on the ways blacks have enriched our lives? You know, Trump, he kind of got in trouble because of all this other nonsense going on. Trump was kind of mentioning how he thinks we have too many of these holidays. And I agree with him. I don't know. Juneteenth is a made up holiday like a lot of black holidays like Kwanzaa. It's just a bunch of nonsense. And the bigger question is, should we have holidays that celebrate a race or an ethnic group? I don't really care. But then we should have a white holiday, right? Oh, no, you can't have that. That'd be Nazism. I think people are getting tired of that double standard. So I don't really care that much if ethnic groups have their holidays. I don't celebrate it. I don't really care. That ethnic group in general, I don't want to be around because of the dysfunction. But if they're around themselves and they can have grape drink and they can get the freak on, and then there's a shooting. I don't care. Just keep it away from me. So I didn't really think much about Juneteenth because I was really busy with other stuff. But thank you for that, ETNM. And that was the Power Chat. So again, you got Super Chats, Rumble as Rants, and Power Chats. I really do appreciate all those. And let's see here. What is the big news? All right. The big news, obviously, is Iran and Israel. And will we strike Iran or not? It's gone back and forth. On Tuesday, I did the show because it looked like we were definitely going to have an attack on Iran. And according to Trump, he had decided on Tuesday to do an attack, but for whatever reason, he didn't pull the trigger. And then the next day, he talked about more negotiations. And then it became, well, maybe we'll give 2 more weeks, and we'll see what happens. So Trump is very chaotic. That's kind of his nature. I don't even know if he knows. I think he there's a lot of people that try to give him advice and move him in different ways. I think Trump is fundamentally conflicted on this whole matter. He's a older guy, kind of loves Israel, all that type of stuff. So that isn't new. And Iran's the bad guy. That goes back to 1979. I think that's part of his DNA. But at the same time, he understands that we can't get into all these foreign wars. They tend to create disasters. And he was one of the first Republican candidates to attack the Iraq War, George Bush. And that was great to see. And so I think his instinct is to stay out of these things. He'd rather have negotiations. He'd rather be seen as the peace president. But he's got a powerful Israeli lobby after him. And part of the issue is he's sort of sympathetic. So I think there's a disconnect that's happening. And we have various groups here that have various agendas. And I don't think Trump's agenda really aligns with Israel, but it really doesn't align for the most part with his base. I think his base, meaning the younger Republicans, we don't want to get in more wars. It doesn't mean we're isolationist. It's always a slur. It's like, no, we want to interact with other countries. We just don't want to kill people if we don't have to. It's such a weird smear. That'd be like saying I'm an isolationist with my neighbor, even though I say hi to him. We exchange food, at Christmas, we give Christmas cards. But because I don't want to kill him, I'm an isolationist. It's a very weird slur they use. But no, we're not isolationists. We just don't want these wars that don't impact America. And as I said, if I was president, my foreign policy would be extremely easy for everyone to understand. It'd be very clear. There'd be no ambiguity. I would explain this to every country. The first thing I would say to every country is just because we want to be peaceful, it doesn't mean we're going to tolerate the United States being attacked. So if you should attack the United States, I don't care if you're Israel, I don't care if you're Iran, that's a declaration of war. We're going to go to war at you, and we're going to flatten you. And we're going to keep our military up. It's not going to be as bloated, but it's going to be very good. And we're going to hit you hard. So you can't attack the United States. So let's make that clear. So we're not pacifists that you can do whatever you want. But other than that, we're happy to be friends with you. And we're happy to trade with you. And people going back and forth. It doesn't mean we want all your people in our nation. We don't. I don't want a bunch of Iranians in America. You have your country. And the same with Israel. You guys have your country. We have our country. But there's no reason we can't all be friends. So that'd be my first principle. Unless you attack us, and we're going to attack you. Now, as part of that, we have the way we like to live, our values, but we're not going around the world trying to impose our values on you. We may not like how you set up your country. Let's say if you're an Islamic country, you have to pray 5 times a day. You make the women wear the hijab or whatever, which I think is not even the case anymore with Iran. But whatever. Let's say even if they did, we may not like that, but that's your country. That's not our business. It's not for us. And in fact, that's why we don't want your people in our country, because we don't want our culture to be that way. But however you have your culture, even though we may not approve of it, that's up to you. So remember in Afghanistan, there was a big thing. They don't educate their women. I don't care. I don't live in Afghanistan. That's for the Afghani people to figure out. That should be another principle that we have. So what you do in your own country is up to you. We're not going to get involved with that. And then the third point, or I guess the second, is that we don't have the money to give foreign aid to other countries. We just don't. You guys have to stand up on your own 2 feet. We're not a sugar daddy for the world. We have a huge deficit. We got to rebuild our own nation, including infrastructure, military. We have a lot of problems in this country. We just don't have the money to piss away on other countries. It doesn't mean we hate you. It just means we got to take care of our own. Again, take it local. I don't give money to my neighbor, not that he needs it, But it's not that I hate him because I don't give money to him. He's fine on his own. And other countries like Israel, good, they can do what they want, but they don't need money from the United States or weapons or anything like that. So they got to get their own weapons elsewhere, and they got to develop their own funds, their own industry. They can't be welfare leeches on the United States. And to be fair, it's just not Israel. I would make that for all countries. So, Iceland, you guys aren't going to get welfare from us. We just don't have the money for that. The third thing is we're not going to get involved with your wars. Again, we're involved with America. And if you get in a war with another country, let's say like Israel, they did the sneak attack on Iran. Well, that probably wasn't wise, but that's up to you then. We're not going to bail you out. We're not going to go to war for you. Same with like Ukraine. It's not our business. We're not going to supply you. We're not going to go to war for you. That's not what we're in the business to do. And again, it's not that we're isolationist. We want to interact with countries, but we just don't have the money and we don't have the time. And this is not our purpose. And if you had this policy, it would radically change how America is looked in the world, really. Because a lot of people, they say the excuse, well, we got to attack Iran. How can you support Iran when they're shouting death to America? Well, number one, just because I don't want to attack Iran doesn't mean I support them, right? I may not like my neighbor, but that's like saying because I don't want to murder him, I'm supporting. No, I support him. I don't, right? I don't want to be involved with that. So that's the number one thing. And then the death to America. Well, people in the countries, they say all sorts of weird stuff. And again, take this local. Say if my rancher neighbor, death to Ramsey Paul, he would chant. Well, I wouldn't like it. Probably wouldn't be great friends with him, but that wouldn't give me legal justification to kill him in the middle of the night. So that's not enough. And by the way, the reason that they mostly have said that in Iran, it's not like everyone's saying that in Iran. It's not like they say that all the time. It was back in years ago. There's people chanting that. And they were upset because we support Israel, their enemy. So obviously they get upset about them. So, but if we didn't support Israel, they wouldn't be chanting that. It's just is that simple. Because if we support their enemy, then they consider us their enemy too. Which kind of makes sense, right? And so if we had a good foreign policy, we wouldn't have enemies in all these Muslim nations. And again, it doesn't mean that I love Muslims and I definitely don't want to import them into my countries or our countries. They shouldn't be here. They should be deported. Simple as. But if they live in their countries, they can do what they want and we're not going to have any problems with them. And for the most part, if that was the situation, you wouldn't have the death to America chants or whatever. But even so, death to America, if someone chants that, is not reason enough to go to war. You have to have a standard where you're being attacked. And Iran has not attacked us. They haven't. The closest you can say about Iran is that they have supported militias that have fought against Israel. Well, I mean, there's a lot of issues there with Gaza and Israel fighting the Palestinians. And again, this isn't our business, but Iran hasn't had an issue with us. And we don't have to get involved with this. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. So my foreign policy, I think, it would save a lot of money. It'd bring a lot more peace. It would be a much more stable world. And this idea that if Iran gets a nuclear bomb, they're going to go crazy, start to blow it up everywhere. Why would we think that? Pakistan is a Muslim country. They've had the bomb and they don't do it. North Korea, we always say they're psycho. They've had a bomb a long time. They don't. I mean, why would you want to? Because you'd just be destroyed yourself. So the whole thing is kind of stupid. The premise is somehow that if Iran gets a nuclear bomb, they're going to blow up LA. Not that I would counter signal that, but unfortunately that won't happen. And they don't have a delivery mechanism, number one. They have no desire to do that because they would be wiped off the face of the earth because we have a lot more nukes. It just wouldn't happen. It's just stupid. It's just propaganda to scare normies. It's kind of like they always bring up this weird, somehow we're supposed to believe Iranians have all these secret sleeper cells in America. I'm like, well, why do you think that? Who are these members? Because if you say they're here, who are they and why are you arresting them? And what do they do? So they move to America legally or illegally, and they just hide out until they get the secret bat signal to attack a bunch of boomers at Walmart in mobility scooters. Is that what you're imagining? And I think a lot of people, that's the fear they're trying to get into Americans, because it's kind of a hard argument to try to tell Americans why you should attack another country when that country has not attacked you. So you have to make up bullshit like, oh, there's all these sleeper cells. And oh, don't you know they chant death to America? And oh, we can't have them get a nuclear bomb because they're terrorists. Well, terrorism is kind of a broad term. I mean, most countries have engaged in terrorism. Israel has, and they have a nuclear bomb. So this idea they're going to get a nuclear bomb, they're just going to bomb our country is just ridiculous. It's kind of a repeat of the propaganda we used to justify the invasion of Iraq. Remember, they supposedly had weapons of mass destruction. Turned out to be bullshit, but that was the reason. So you got to run your propaganda to try to convince kind of the normie people to get on the side. And as I said, it's not working as well anymore as it did like 20 years ago. There's been a lot of things have changed since 2001 on September 11th. It's been over, it's almost 25 years ago now. And it's different people. A lot of people don't even remember it. And at that time, our city was attacked, and a lot of Americans were tricked to believe it was Saddam Hussein. It wasn't, but they kind of were tricked to believe that was the case. And Americans, they waved the flag, became all patriotic. But those days are gone. And to attack a country that hasn't attacked us, you got to ramp up some pretty weird propaganda. And for the most part, that propaganda is not really working very well. It's not a very popular position for us to get into another Middle Eastern war, except for the neocons, and they got a lot of money and influence, but I just don't see it as very popular. So that's another thing that's kind of pushing against Trump. I think he's really conflicted, because I do think he loves Israel and the Jews, even though they, for the most part, hate him. But he was raised that way. But at the same time, he understands the problems of George Bush and us getting into this regime building or destroying regimes and doing nation building. It almost always ends up in a disaster. So that's kind of where we are right now. And we'll go through some of these things here and take a look at that. And I already got a $5. So, hey, we got $5 and $8. So $8. So $42 more. And I do a show on Monday. In Caladius 4. Trump had me raging all week with his neocon bullshit. Glad he seems to listen to someone talking sense at least. Yeah. And thank you for the rant. That was a rant. I do think Trump is listening to other people now. I do think we have a good ally in JD Vance. And I know JD Vance used to be a neocon. Tucker Carlson used to be a neocon. Michelle Malkin used to be a neocon. People can change, they learn. And Michelle Malkin, I had her on my show once, interviewed her. Someone asked her that question. She goes, yeah, I regret that. I was that way. And Tucker said the same thing. So they always try to do like a gotcha with Tucker. We'll look at Tucker like, oh, look at Tucker. This is what he said back in 2002 or whatever. Yeah, well, people change and they understand things. So that should be a good thing. And JD Vance, yeah, years ago, he was a neocon. You can find that. But he's really evolved. And I think he's really on our side. He's very adjacent to us. He probably knows who I am. I know he knows people that are adjacent to me because he responds to them. And he understands our concerns. And I think he's got a good pulse on the base. And I think he's able to give some good advice to Trump in a very respectful manner, because JD Vance always comes off as very polite to Trump, calls him sir. And I think he knows how to handle Trump well. And supposedly Steve Bannon met with Trump just today, and Steve is opposed to an upcoming war. So the longer this delay happens, the more of a chance we have for peace. Now, the neocons are really starting to freak out because they don't want peace. They want regime change. So we'll have to see. I don't know which way it's going to go. And I don't think Trump knows which way it's going to go. I really don't. So it could go either way, but let's just hope for peace. All right. I got a super chat. Thank you. We don't need to be the world's sugar daddy. And this is Sisful. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we don't have the money to do that, number one. So we need to get off of that. So thank you for that. So let's see, that's $10, $18. Okay. So about $32 from a Monday show. But thank you very much for that. All right. We'll get into some of the clips here. Let me just bring that up so you guys can see the power chats. And again, Streamelements is down for me, but other than that, I still can see your power chats. I can see your super chats and rants. All right, so let's see what else. Let me just bring up some stuff here. Oh yeah, the White House here. Let's take a look at this.
Now, regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
And he's clarified that quote just today that, it doesn't mean I'm going to have to wait 2 weeks. It could be sooner. So he kind of ratcheted up the pressure and he wants to get a deal with Iran. The problem is, there's a couple of problems with that. Number one is, what is the deal? And just as a background, I think the big issue was supposedly initially was we can't allow Iran for whatever reason to get a nuclear bomb. Okay, that was the original thing, despite North Korea having one, Pakistan. Okay, whatever, you could debate it, but that was the original thing. That was the original point. And Iran has always said that they don't want a nuclear bomb. And everyone can say, but they're just sneaky, lying bastards. Maybe, but their spiritual leader, the supreme leader, Khomeini, they're Shiites. He's made statements that, no, that is immoral to have a nuclear weapon. And unless their survival's at stake, we can't have a nuclear weapon. So I kind of believe them that they weren't necessarily working on a nuclear bomb. They may be now. But anyway, that was the issue. So the whole negotiation was kind of weird because we were coming to Iran and saying, well, we're not going to allow you to make a nuclear bomb. And Iran, their position, okay, I mean, we don't want to. We're fine with that. You can expect and do whatever, and that's fine with us because we're not going to make one. That was Iran's point. But the United States, our position, well, no, that's not good enough. You have to give up all your nuclear research, including, so you can't have like nuclear power plants. And Iran's like, no, that's a bridge too far. We want nuclear power. Nuclear power is different than nuclear bombs. And we need to enrich uranium because this is important. You know, we're in a desert. We want nuclear power. And so that's been the big stumbling block right there. Because the people in the West are saying, well, they're just lying bastards. They're not going to use it for nuclear power, at least a large part. It's a sneaky way for them to develop a bomb, whereas Iran's saying, no, that's not what we're doing at all. So the United States got into negotiations with Iran, and they were supposed to meet last Sunday to help negotiate the deal. But then Israel, they did a sneak attack. And because of information from the United States, they knew where all the Iranian negotiators were, and they massacred them all. Oops, they killed them all. So Iran's a little still upset about that. Like, how can we trust America to negotiate with you when you kill our negotiators? It'd be like in the old days, you put up the white flag so you can all get together and discuss terms, and then you just ignore the white flag and kill everyone. I mean, that's kind of bad protocol. It's bad optics. It's not kosher. I guess maybe it is kosher, but it's not a good thing. So that's kind of what happened there. So the problem is Trump said, well, we had a deal and Iran never took it. But what was the deal? Get rid of all enrichment. Iran said they're not going to do that. And by the way, that's not enough for Israel. Israel just doesn't want Iran to give up their nuclear power capabilities. They'll make more and more demands. So say Israel, say hypothetically, if Iran should say, okay, we'll give up all uranium enrichment. And then Israel, I know they'll come back and say, well, that's not good enough. We want you to get rid of all your ballistic missiles. And even if Iran got rid of all those, they said, no, that's still not good enough. You got to get rid of all your Air Force and so on until Iran's totally defenseless and they end up like Gaddafi, right? Just murdered. And I think Iran understands that they can't give up everything. So that's the situation. So Trump negotiating, I'm not really quite sure what the negotiation is. If a negotiation is, we don't want you to make a nuclear bomb and we want to have inspectors to make sure you don't, I think Iran will say, okay, we're on board with that. However, if the negotiation is you can't enrich uranium, period, I don't think Iran will agree to that. At least they said they won't agree to that. But even if Trump should get a deal, that's going to piss off Israel and the neocons because they want regime change. They don't want just the nuclear thing is just an excuse. They want a country that's friendly towards them, that can be controlled by them. Right now, they can't control Iran. So that's like the real reason. So if Trump should sign a nuclear agreement with Iran, all the neocons like Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, Netanyahu, all those type of people will start screaming bloody murder, that you're trying to appease Iran. It's just like, trying to appease Hitler. They'll do the whole thing. So the 2-week thing, I'm not really quite sure what 2 weeks are going to make a difference really, but we will see. So that's kind of where we are right now on that. So currently where we stand, we're not getting involved with the war, but Trump will have a decision within 2 weeks. It could be sooner, he said. So it could be tonight that Trump decides to attack Iran, but it could be up to 2 weeks. And then at 2 weeks, I'm not sure what happens then, because Trump could just say another 2 weeks, because that's how Trump rolls. He has these deadlines, like he has these deadlines on China, and he just extends them. So I wouldn't read too much into that. 2 weeks is sort of like, it's almost like a 4chan meme, meaning you just put off something indefinitely. When are you going to do that? Oh, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, this will happen. And then 2 weeks happens and nothing happens. So I think that's a little bit of that. But then you have to understand, what will an attack look like? The idea is, I guess we could bomb their nuclear facilities, but the problem is at least one of their nuclear facilities is very deep underground. Trump came out today and said Israel doesn't have any weapons where they could get to that facility, maybe if they use nuclear. But even the United States is somewhat doubtful if even our B-2 stealth bombers and a bunker buster bomb could get that deep. It'd be very tricky if that would even happen. So what do? Do you then send special forces in to try to help? But then they could be captured. They're kind of like ground forces. And if you're going, and then Iran, they have pretty sophisticated air defense. So I would assume that it wouldn't be just a bombing run on the nuclear facility. I would assume the United States would have to hit multiple targets in Iran, including all their ballistic missile sites, because the fear is if we attack Iran, Iran could use their missiles and attack. We have something like 40,000 men and women in the Middle East for God knows what reasons, but we have bases all over the Middle East. So the fear is Iran could retaliate and attack our bases. So preemptively, I don't think it would be just an attack on the nuclear facility. So like the B-2 bombers just drop a couple of bombs. I think it'll have to be more extensive, or we attack a lot of their, or try to attack where they have their missile launchers. And I don't know how effective that would be. It would be very expensive. But then what? Right? Then what? So let's say even if we wiped out their nuclear program, but then what? What if the regime doesn't fall? Iran's still there. They could just build back. And so the neocons will start to scream that we need to send in ground troops, which is almost an impossibility. There's no political will for that. So Trump could get himself into a really bad position where there's no good outcome. But, Trump doesn't have to run for re-election again. And I know various Jewish groups gave him a lot of money, but maybe the Jewish group should ask Elon Musk. Sometimes you could give someone a lot of money, but you don't get what you want in return. And I think, Trump got a lot of Adelson's money and so forth, but he's not running again. So he doesn't have to worry about that. And he's 79 years old. So how much longer does he have? So I think he's trying to do what he thinks is best for America. I don't know. I don't know how Trump will respond. And I don't think Trump knows. I think Trump is very conflicted. On the one hand, he grew up with a dispensational theology. Not that Trump is real religious, but a lot of people, they bought into the heresy that the modern Jews are God's chosen people. From a traditional Christian viewpoint, including from Galatians and Acts, that's a heresy. We are under the new covenant if you believe in Jesus Christ, and everyone that's a believer, we're the new Israel. But they still believe in this heresy that a country that actively rejects Jesus, in fact, they hate Jesus. And if you want to compare, Iran is actually in Islam. They don't believe Jesus is the savior, but they believe he's a prophet that should be respected. Whereas mostly in Judaism, they hate Jesus. So it's really bizarre how we support a country that hates our savior, and they don't allow us to preach the good news of Jesus Christ in Israel. It's really, really strange, but a lot of people fell into that. And Trump, I think, was raised around that. Not that he really buys into it 100%, but he always sees the Jews, it's just the spunky good guys that are picked on for no reason. I think that's how he kind of view things. And Iran, I remember the 1979 hostage crisis, and we got to get back to them. But, it's been over 50 years ago. But then he understands the quagmire we could get in and the disaster of Bush. So I think he's really conflicted. He's looking for some way out, but I don't know if he can find a way out without pissing one side or the other off. So we'll have to see what happens on that. I know Z-Man, I listened to him today. He thinks a lot of it has to do with China, that Trump's primary concern is China. And I think partly that could be true, but I think this is sort of a standalone thing. Trump did bring up Iran a lot before he was president, saying, they can't get a bomb, and I would have never done the Obama deal. Remember that. That's true. So this has always been an issue with Trump. But I think he sees, we got some issues. Is this a war we can really win? Is it going to further bankrupt America? And then what happens with Ukraine when we're messing around with Iran? And then what if China should go after Taiwan? A lot of problems with this whole scenario. So we'll have to see this. All right. Let's see here. Here's Damien. Thank you. I am done with Trump for several reasons. One, he's trying to sell our land to put foreign houses that will destroy everything. Yeah, I saw that. There's this thing that they're talking. The United States owns, the federal government owns a lot of land. And a lot of it, if you look at Nevada is a huge state, but it's 98% owned by the federal government. It's just like empty desert, but they own 98% of it. I mean, there's a little around Reno and Las Vegas that's privately held, but most is government owned. And the question is, does the government own too much land? And I would say yes. Now, what gets emotional? A lot of people, they think if the government sells some land, that means they're going to tear down Yellowstone Park and put apartments there for Indians. I don't think that's what they mean. So it depends how they do that. I obviously love our national parks, and I'm near a national park, the Ozark National Park. I don't want that to be taken over with houses that we import Indians or something. And I don't think most people want that. But to be fair, I don't know if that's really what they're proposing. There is a lot of land that's not exactly, some big, beautiful natural resource, just desert in Las Vegas, near Las Vegas. Why can't we open some of that up? Stuff like that. So it just depends. Now, am I done with Trump? You know, I like it. I like what Trump does when he does stuff good. I don't like it when he does bad. I think he's going to go down as one of the most interesting figures in history. He definitely will. He's love him or hate him. He's not like some boring George Bush or Lyndon Johnson, or he's a great man. And when I say great, I don't necessarily mean good. I just mean larger than other men. Like I would say Hitler was a great man. And a lot of people, how could you say he was a great man? He was the evil man. Well, I'm not judging. When I say great, I just mean he's bigger, larger than life. And Napoleon was that way. You could say, I don't know, Alexander the Great definitely was. Julius Caesar definitely was. I'm just throwing names out there, right? I would say George Washington you would put in that category. I'd put Abraham Lincoln, and I don't like Lincoln, but he's above. He has a little something about him. And Trump is like that. Trump is not a normal type of person. And there's some good to that, and there's some bad. And Trump is extremely chaotic, and he does things very differently. And he's very reactive. He's not a man of great principles or ideology. He just wants to do what works. And if it doesn't work, he just pulls back real quick. He is a narcissist. He's very egomaniac, but most people in those positions are. Otherwise, you want to get to that level. He's thin-skinned. That's true. But a lot of those people are. When you get to that position, that's why he was really insulted by Zelensky. He expects to be treated with respect. I understand that. So, Trump is Trump, and he has, in my opinion, a lot of flaws, but he's able to really break things apart that needed to be broken apart. Unfortunately, that can be a bad thing too. So, Trump has his pros and cons, but he is a great man. And I know Z-Man always calls him the mule. That was, I think, an Asimov novel. The mule is just like a destroyer of worlds. I just kind of see it like Trump's like a bull in a china shop, right? That old metaphor where he just crashes things around. And that's good. Sometimes that can be good or bad. Sometimes that is good. You need someone to be able to disrupt things to get the change. And he's done a lot of good things, like he shut down illegal immigration. And, and the way with Trump, like, for example, he made an exemption for farm workers and hotel workers. And everyone's like, oh my God, Trump cocked. How could he do this? But, he walked that back. And that's typical Trump. He'll throw things out there. He did that with Liberation Day, all these huge tariffs. He's walked most of them back. That's how he operates. He operates in the world of negotiations, wheeling and dealing. And that's, for good or bad, that's how he is. And that's how he looks at the world. So everything for him is one big negotiation, including Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Iran. Oh, these are just negotiations. I think he's mistaken in that. It's more complicated than that. But that's how he views it. So I don't know if I'm done with him. If he gets us into, I understand, Damien, your sentiment, because I do get that feeling a lot with him. And if he should get us into a war with Iran, I could probably be joining you. I have to admit, with Trump, and it's been this way even with the first administration. He's just like one of these. If you guys ever been in a relationship with someone that has a real toxic element, and you're like, I'm done with her, I'm done with her, but then you get sucked back in again, then you have another fight. This time I mean it, but then you think of, you get sucked back in. Trump is kind of that way, right? I keep thinking I'm like breaking up with him, I'm done with him, but then he pulls me back. I don't know if you guys, but he does that with me quite a bit. But there does come a point will be too far. And if he decides to start on this war for Israel that bankrupts America, that could be it to me too. So that is it. Let's see here. I have whatever, 609, $5. Thank you. Hi, Rams. An off-topic request. You had an old vid on why you shouldn't learn Hungarian and Romania. Is there a chance to re-upload that one? I'll look for that. A lot of my videos I had to take down may still be on BitChute. I'll have to check on that. Yeah, I just did a video. It's usually probably a waste of time. That was an old video. At this point, I think it's sort of a waste of time to learn another language anyway because of AI. AI can pretty much translate for you instantaneously. And if you want to learn another language, I don't think that's a bad thing. It's good for kids in school to learn. When you're young, you can learn quicker. But I don't think it has as much relevance anymore. I think I showed you one of my Finnish friends. He used an AI tool in a video I did. He had it translated 100% in Finnish, but it wasn't subtitles. It was my voice actually speaking Finnish about the topic. And it was amazing. I think I showed you guys that. So, and the first time I saw that, something like that and they got the usual suspects all upset, is they had Hitler's voice speaking in English, but it was Hitler's voice. And it was his speech, but it's in English with his voice. It was really fascinating. And I heard this now, with my voice in Finnish. And I've saw tools now that you can do remote meetings and you can have the AI instantly translate their voice into the language you can understand. So I think learning languages is kind of a thing of the past. That may get a lot of people upset, but thank you for that. Whatever. So let's see, $10, $13. And let's see here. Then I got the $23 and then $5. So it's $28. All right. Well, I'm getting close there. So let's see here to the 50. Going through the rants right now. Pam Hyde, is Trump stupid, crazy, or just not in control of things? How can he keep falling for the Israeli tricks? He should know by now. Very disappointing. If anything, he should regime change Israel. Yeah, well, to be fair with Trump has always been extremely pro-Zionist. I mean, more than most Jews. In fact, he got in trouble because you remember a few years ago, he said that Jews in America don't love Israel enough like he does. And so he's always had this big love affair for Israel. Why? I'm not quite sure. I suspect because of his age and how he was raised. I'm not quite sure. And I think Netanyahu frustrates him a lot too. But he's always had that blind spot for Israel, like a lot of people, Republicans his age do. I think that's more of an older person thing now. You don't see that so much with younger people, unless they're being paid off or they're like Jewish or it's in the religion. So this is a very tough thing with Trump. Whereas like Ukraine, he's never had that devotion to Ukraine. So I think Ukraine isn't a bigger problem. Rojas, hey Rojas, it's great to see you. Democrats' view of how Ramsey Paul would run the government. All right, let's take a look at this here. All right, we're going to look at this. Thank you. This is Rojas.
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really look.
What are you doing? She's coming with us. What are you talking about? Who are you? I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
Based.
She was born here. She's a citizen. I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
What is this? It's a real cringy, over the top ad. Yeah, I don't care. That is something that has really changed with people. Is people, like, would you vote for this? Look at, they're deporting a pregnant illegal. I'm like, yeah, I did vote for that. Yeah, but look at her cry. Doesn't that make you sad? I'm like, no, not at all. It makes me happy. And a lot of people are having that attitude now. That's good. We need to get that attitude, because they've always used our goodness against us, because they don't ever apply that, right? So they don't give a shit about our people. They never shed a tear about our people, ever. But we're supposed to shed all the tears over them. I'm like, nah, we're not playing that game anymore. So I think it's good just to laugh at stuff like that anymore. All right, so let's see. Incalis is 5. I'm just doing the total here. So then Pam is another 5, is 10, $12. Thank you. Anna Kasparian says the quiet part out loud. I think I tweeted this. Yeah, let's just take a look at this. She was with the Young Turks. Now she's sounding like me in a lot of ways. So let's take a look at this.
Why did Trump pull out?
He pulled out because Bibi doesn't want the JCPOA. Bibi wanted to go to war with Iran. He's wanted regime change in Iran for
So you're saying the
Right, Bibi does, and Netanyahu wants regime change. The neocons in general do. It's not about the nuclear treaty.
Netanyahu controls Trump.
Trump's the most honest person
You're saying
in the
that
world.
Bibi Netanyahu
Yeah.
controls Trump. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So,
I think the Israeli government controls our government. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is amazing how it's just a mainstream position now, whereas just a few years ago, you could get banned on social media for saying this. Now this is just people are saying, it's hard to deny. It's true. But yeah, this is amazing.
well, that's your opinion.
No, it's
and
not an
you're
opinion.
wrong, but that's
It's based
entitled
on
to your
evidence.
opinion.
It's based
So
on
you're saying,
APEC.
so you're saying that
It's
Trump,
based on money and politics. It's based on the fact that Netanyahu go to the U.S. to invade Iraq and then didn't even send IDF soldiers. He had 4,000 of our soldiers die in Iraq based on a false premise of weapons of mass destruction.
Crimea River, like you care about American soldiers.
I do care about
Sure you
American
do.
soldiers, and I care about
Sure you
American
do.
taxpayers who spend trillions of dollars on this trash when we are dealing with $37 trillion in debt.
So now,
Yeah, we don't have the money. Israel gets free health care. They get all the shit because we're paying for it. And if you listen to the whole Ted Cruz thing, it's obvious we're controlled.
now you're a fiscal conservative.
Yeah, I
Welcome
am a
to my
fiscal
world.
conservative
Welcome
when
to
it
my
comes to
world.
spending our
So
resources on
you're
wars that we
saying
shouldn't be
that
fighting on
Trump-
behalf of a foreign
Let me
country.
understand this. You're saying that Trump is so weak and such a pussy that he just listens to whatever Bibi does? Is that what you're
I don't
saying?
think he's weak or a pussy. I think
Well, you
he's
just said Bibi controls him.
transactional. I think he's transactional.
Wait,
and I think that he buys this ridiculous narrative that Iran was behind the 2 assassination attempts when there isn't even a shred of evidence other than Netanyahu declaring it.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Those stupid kids that one kid that tried to assassinate him, that was ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. That's why these positions are becoming very, very mainstream. So thank you on that. So let's see, we got $5. Thank you on that. And then I'm scrolling through. It says 10, 12. All right, we're almost there. 12, 14. Thank you. Then here we got 14, 19, 20. $24, $27 so far. So thank you very much. 27. Almost there. So let's see here. It's 30. So only about 23 more dollars. So thank you. All right. Let's see here. What else do we have? Trump's been saying a lot of different things, but here's some of the things I wanted to show you just to understand how you can argue against these things. Some of these are logical fallacies or And one of the reasons that they will use to try to get us in a war with Iran is 20 actual laws in Iran, and like apostasy, leaving Islam, and all sorts of laws. And I didn't read them. Maybe they're good or bad, but I don't live in Iran, and how Iran wants to run their countries up to them. And that's not a reason for me to go to war with Iran. But you'll hear that. That will be a thing they try to do to justify people to go into war with Iran. And it's ridiculous. So I don't care what they do in Iran. This is it. And then there's Israel. And it's the trouble that Israel's having now is they just been on a year-long, has it been a year, where they've been like slaughtering something like 10,000 civilians in Gaza because of the October 7th thing. They've just been leveling that place. And again, I don't really care about the Palestinians, but they've been wiping out women and children. And so now Israel's trying to do the crocodile tears that, oh, Iran's killing civilians. Well, you know, if you've been wiping out 10,000 Muslims with glee, and mostly they've been excited about it, aid workers and everything else, just massacring them, then you can't expect the world to feel sorry for you when you try to do a sad picture here. Iran is targeting Israeli civilians, including newborn babies. I laugh because really, is Iran like, okay, where should we direct this missile? I know, let's direct it to newborn babies. And they're like, no, Mohammed, we got to direct this missile to a Holocaust survivor. No, Mohammed, we got to direct this missile to a hospital. Yeah, it's just ridiculous, right? So the whole premise is dumb. When you throw missiles around, civilians are going to die. That's how it works. That's why war sucks. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but that's how it works. It happened in World War II. When we carpet bombed Germany, we killed a lot of babies. And that's how war works. And if you're Israel, if you spent your time killing all these people in Gaza, you're probably not going to get a lot of sympathy, right? And some of these stories they're up there with lampshades and turning people into soap as ridiculous. But here's one. So this guy is saying, breaking, Iran's latest attack destroyed a Christian school for special needs children. Oh, they're hitting little Christian kids that have autism. So they're just pulling out all the propaganda here. It's kind of funny how just over the top it is. And the neocons are worried. Let me just show you Newt Gingrich here. How this kind of give you an insight into this. He's an example. Negotiating with Iran's theocratic leaders only delays the inevitable. So Newt is saying that we shouldn't negotiate with Iran. They'll rebuild their nuclear and missile program. It's time for decisive action, not diplomatic platitudes. And I predicted this. I wrote a pretty good long post on X explaining that even if Trump should take out their nuclear facilities, and I'm not sure that's possible, but let's say if he was able to, that won't be enough for people like Newt Gingrich. It won't, because I said they'll say this, and he's already said this. So I'm like, I predicted this. That they would just rebuild them over time. So they are full on for regime change, but it's very difficult to do a regime change with just bombing. You almost need to send in troops, and we're in no position to do that. So that is that situation there. All right, let's look at some of these other arguments. This one is some blonde bimbo on Fox News. So is this short? All right, we'll just take a look at this here. Here we go.
Turn is peace through strength. An optimal word, and that is strength. And
Well, no, she's saying, let's listen to this again.
President Trump, his doctrine is peace through strength. An optimal word, and that is strength. And
strength, but the second word is peace, right? So these people seem to have the idea the way to maintain peace is to fight wars. It's really bizarre. It's very Orwellian. And 1984 was really satire, but it was, peace is war or whatever. And so that is something, it's just crazy propaganda, but that's what it is.
Identifying
war is peace.
The moments to show American strength, as he did with Soleimani al-Baghdadi when he acted in Syria in 2017. To the isolationist crowd, my question would be...
Well, first of all, that's the pejorative. Isolationist implies like we just want to be a hermit kingdom like North Korea, not interact with other countries. And I reject that term because if you trade with other countries, if you visit them, if you have good relationships with them, you're not an isolationist. Just like in my personal life, if I should be friends with my neighbors, just because I don't want to kill them doesn't mean I'm an isolationist. It's a weird spin. It's a propaganda spin, but we'll go on.
What makes your position materially different than the beachside foreign policy of Joe Biden?
All right. Well, this is a logical error, and she doesn't understand that because she's on the news because she dyes her hair blonde and she's probably got fake tits. But I'll try to explain this to her. Just because someone you dislike holds the same position that you do on a specific topic, it doesn't invalidate that position, right? And it's the old joke. Did you know that Hitler drank water? So then that means if you drink water, you're just like Hitler. It's a logical fallacy, right? So the fact that Joe Biden didn't go to war with Iran, okay, I didn't like Joe Biden. He's a piece of shit, and I haven't heard from him. I assume he's dying. I don't really care. I don't have any sympathy for the man. He's did a lot of evil things to our country, including bringing in all millions of illegals. Evil man. Very anti-white DEI. I could go on and on and on. But him not attacking Iran was good. And just because he didn't attack Iran doesn't make it a bad thing. Just because he is a bad person, right? As for example, as near as I can figure, Joe Biden has a lot of issues, but I don't think he beheaded any babies. I don't think he brought babies in the White House and beheaded them and ate them, cannibalism. Maybe he did. I don't think he did. So are you trying to say, well, Joe Biden didn't kill babies and eat them? So obviously, if you're like Joe Biden, what makes you any different than Joe Biden? See, it's a logical fallacy.
Sticking your head in the sand is no different than sitting in the sandy beaches of Delaware and saying don't. When we just said don't, which is what Biden said, what it got us was 2 global wars, one in Israel, one in Ukraine, both of which are raging. It got us the fall of a country to the Taliban. These are the facts. The facts are this. Iran is in the weakest position they have ever been in, not because of the United States, because of what Israel has done.
Why would she say? I mean, she just throws out a lot of things she says that are facts, that Iran's in a very weak position. I don't really see that. And in fact, if we get to it in this show, Israel's starting to take a beating now with missiles because Iran initially they intercepted about 90% of the Iranian missiles, but now it's like 60%. And what Iran did was somewhat sophisticated. In the first wave, they sent their old missiles and cheap drones. In Israel, they spazzed out and shot all their air defense or most of their air defense on this cheap stuff. Now Israel's running low of air defense. And it's not like we can make this stuff very quick. So then after they're almost depleted, that's when Iran, they start to use their more sophisticated things. It's smart, really. And this strategy's been used in the war with Russia and Ukraine. So this idea they're somehow in a weak position, they could be, but I don't see it.
This is a narrow window I don't believe we will ever have again. A narrow window to conduct a pinpoint strike. Not regime change. President Trump has said, I'm not taking out Khomeini. Right. Not ground forces. A precision strike to take out a nuclear weapon site that only the United States can do.
All right. A couple of things with that. She's saying that there's not going to be a regime change. But, and she probably doesn't understand this because she can't think that deeply. But, okay. So let's say, again, we are able to take out this nuclear facility. And there's a lot of doubt about that because it's really deep underground. And a lot of the experts, I'm not an expert on this, to be honest, but I've read a lot of people I consider credible, and they don't think it's really possible. I mean, probably not going to happen. But let's say we do it. But then what? Then they're still going to be in power, and they'll just rebuild it. And that's what Newt Gingrich's argument is. And who is she? I don't know who she is. She hasn't ever thought about that, but that will be the big issue. And by the way, it will have to be more than just a pinpoint strike at the nuclear power plant, because we would fear retaliation by the Iranians. So we would also have to attack multiple sites. So if we do attack, it won't be just that nuclear facility. It will be a lot of targets we're going to be attacked. It's going to be very expensive and very extensive.
That's the opportunity. That's the moment. And here's the alternative. Politico Playbook says, meanwhile, in Europe. Okay, well, what's happening in Europe? Foreign ministers of Germany, France, and Britain plan to hold nuclear talks with Iranian counterparts. Who do I trust more? Germany and France to conduct foreign policy on behalf of the world to make sure nuclear proliferation doesn't happen? Or the man that gave us peace through strength, decimated ISIS, the man who doesn't want forever wars, the man who made sure no wars happened on his watch, and in 4 presidencies, Russia did not invade under Trump's watch. That is the man in charge.
All right, that's all nice, but that's all relevant to the war in Iran. But yeah, he's kept us out of wars. Good for Trump, but he could blow that legacy overnight with a war. Oh, here we go.
Is the commander in chief. It's not the past presidents, Republican and Democrats. It's the man who understands that doctrine.
Real quickly, we saw a decided slowdown in the decision-making process. I mean, the world was ready to jump, but President Trump said, no, I'm going to take my time. I might even still talk to Iran.
He may say no.
The man you worked for, you weren't surprised to see that.
Yeah, and I can tell you this. Look, what negotiation would be okay with him? What agreement? I personally believe nothing short of America going in and watching the dismantling of Fordo would be something he would agree to. His agreement would be one that would ensure Iran does not get nuclear weapons.
We can't just make it the IAEA.
No, they're feckless, they're weak, they're the UN.
But do nothing.
So they're saying to have international inspectors is not going to be good enough. And I don't think Iran is going to agree to that. So that is a weird thing. But that's kind of what they do there. And again, we got this one Berg lady. Berg, she's all worried that we may not get this war for her ethno state. And she is blaming, as I talk to you, apparently Vance and Witkoff are the reason Trump is now hesitating. And that could be because, again, I think J.D. Vance has a lot of good instincts. And he's trying to explain to Trump there's not really a good outcome if you get embroiled in this war. It's not good. But that's it is where that is right now. All right. There was a lot of things I thought you saw about with Tucker interview Cruz. We'll take a look at some of those. They've been pretty fun. Let me just see here. Thank you guys, by the way, for we're almost there. Just another like $20. I'll have a show on Damien. Remember when Trump said Israel owns Congress, and rightfully so? He is cooked. All right. Thank you, Damien. That's hey, we're only $15 away. I don't remember what Trump saying that Israel owns Congress, but he would be right if he said that. That is definitely the thing. So it's a thing. All right, let's watch some of these clips about Tucker. I heard Sasha watched the whole interview. She said it was really good, and I might check that out sometime. But let's watch some of these clips and analyze them and understand the propaganda against them.
So I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel?
From APEC.
So APEC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members.
What does the hell that mean? By definition, any group is made up of individual members. So it'd be like if the Communist Party raised money from you and well, it's not really the Communist Party, it's individuals within the Communist Party. I don't know what that really means.
Believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship.
Is APEC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the APEC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen.
Really? So APEC gives them millions of dollars into a lot of people, but they don't really lobby for anything. And that's interesting. I don't know anyone would do that. Why would you pay all this money to politicians, but you don't want anything?
I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Right.
Wow. Let's hear that again. So if I came into Congress, right, or if I was a senator from Arkansas, I would say my intention is to do first what's best for Arkansas because I represent the state, then what's best for the United States because I'm an American. That would be my goal. I would not say, well, let's see how I don't want to misquote him.
With the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
See, I wouldn't ever think that. I wouldn't think like, hey, I ran for office here in Arkansas so that I could be the leading defender of Hungary. That'd be strange, but it's really bizarre what he's just showing. And this is really opening the eyes to so many people. Because remember, this used to be considered anti-Semitic conspiracy theories on the extreme right. Now people are seeing this as true and it's not because some like David Duke is saying this. This is Ted Cruz saying this, right? It's not David Duke applying that. Ted Cruz, his first loyalty is Israel. Like when he went into Congress, his number one issue was defending Israel. And people say, oh, bullshit. Why do you say shit like that? That's not true. But this is him saying it in his own words. And he's proud of it.
Right. And I've worked every day to do that.
Every day he's worked to defend Israel.
APEC, a lot of times, APEC, I wish were much more effective. Like
they don't bribe enough. That's the problem with APEC is they don't bribe enough. They got to be more effective in hijacking our Congress. That's the problem.
There are folks online who are in the fever swamp of terrified of APEC. And APEC...
I'm not terrified of APEC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable at all.
No, I'm not uncomfortable talking about this. Nope, not at all.
Asking what APEC does. My understanding...
Well, they lobby for Israel and they give money to politicians to vote for Israel causes. And by the way, that should be illegal. We should not have foreign lobbies lobbying for any country. That's just despicable. And it's just not Cruz, it's Tom Cotton in my state. You get weird situations now, like our senator from Arkansas, he never talks about Arkansas. He rarely talks about America. He's just devoted to Israel because they pay his bills. That is a fundamental problem. That should be illegal in this country. We should not allow politicians to get foreign money. And no, we're not going to pay some bullshit game because of how they set it up. Well, it's technically American. No, we're not going to play that game, homie. We're not going to play that game. You're not going to take foreign money. I mean, these are bribes. Let's just call it what it is.
Having known a lot of people who
I could tell you,
is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
It's
when was the last time APEC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
This is a good technique. This is very good what Tucker does. And Cruz wasn't prepared for this. Oh, no. They disagree with Israel all the time. Oh, okay. Name one. You won't be able to.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on APEC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets. No. I want to get to the core question. APEC is lobbying for a foreign government, and I don't. It's not. It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay, and it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And if
it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think APEC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with APEC because APEC's not nearly strong enough.
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and APEC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure. Like if.
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including Israel.
But APEC are Americans. They're not Israelis.
Hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah,
and why aren't
what you're saying is false.
Why aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
Yeah, that was pretty effective. And I think this is really key. One of the things I said after this whole episode with Iran, however it ends, we really need to clear the country of foreign influence over our politicians. I'm not a huge fan of democracy, but the idea our politicians are so connected with foreign money. And mostly it's Israel, but it could be other countries too. I'm not picking on Israel. If it should be China, I'd feel the same way. If there was this China organization that gave, let's say, Tom Cotton all this Chinese money, and all he did was talk about China every day, I'd be, what the fuck? We elected this man to represent us in Arkansas. Why is he just focused on China? Because they bought him. That there's something wrong with that. I think most of us can realize it. So forget Israel. No country should be allowed to do that. But that is what happened there. So let's take a look at some more of the Tucker. And Tucker does this really well here. And I'll give you some comments on this. And thank you guys for being here. We do this every Friday night, and I really do appreciate it, you guys being here.
I'm asking about your allegation and the Prime Minister of Israel's allegation that Iran is trying to murder the president.
Killing terrorists is a good thing. Killing people who are trying to murder Americans is a good thing.
All right. He's saying killing terrorists is a good thing. But again, terrorism is an act, meaning if you fight another army and blow up their base, that's not terrorism. So this has got so muddled. What terrorism meant was for political reasons, you kill civilians. That's terrorism. And most armies have committed terrorism. I would argue the United States Army committed terrorism many times. World War II, the bombing of Dresden was terrorism. There was no military objective. And so terrorism, it happens. All right, I'm not advocating it, just happens. But when two armies attack each other, that's not terrorism. So for example, what's happening when Iran is shooting back to Israel, assuming they're targeting military targets, that's not terrorism. They're at war because Israel attacked them. So you got to kind of parse this out. Now, he's saying that Iranians engaged in terrorism or funded it. Well, probably. So is Israel. Israel does a hell of a lot of terrorism. Just recently in Gaza, they massacre civilians. So that's not really saying anything, because based on that definition, you could automatically go to war with everyone. So it's just kind of ridiculous. Now, it's different if they did a specific terrorism attack against us. So let's say if Iran should set off some bomb in Miami. Yeah, then we should go to war with Iran. I would go to Congress and declare war. I'm not a pacifist. But just saying, oh, they're terrorists and it's good to kill terrorists. Well, then you're going to pretty much kill everyone in every country and all governments. Maybe not a bad thing, but that's what you'd be doing.
Because if you're America first, you want to protect America.
It's funny how they picked up on this because they understand how powerful the America first resonates with people. So they're trying to say, if you're really American first, that means you put Israel first and you want to have wars for Israel because that makes America first. It's a real convoluted way they do this.
And so killing Osama bin Laden was a fantastic.
But you don't really believe that they're trying to murder Trump, or
yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Then why aren't you calling for military action against Tehran right now?
Because
right. And why didn't that come out originally then? If like that was it the Crooks kid? Because there's been 2 assassination attempts on Trump. Once he was shot in the ear. Remember that Crooks, that weirdo kid that we got no information about, and then that other goofball in Florida that they saw standing there in the bushes. And actually, if there's any tie, they had more ties with Ukraine. There was no evidence. It's just ridiculous that there's Iranian spies or something. When did this come up?
Because they're not very effective. In terms of hitmen, their hitmen are not very effective.
So they're saying these 2 guys like Crooks was an Iranian hitman. And what Tucker's saying is if you really believe that they have these hit squads trying to kill President Trump, then that should be a declaration of war. Why haven't you done that?
Oh, so they're hitmen, but not the bad kind, the efficient kind?
No,
Like, what
they're
are you
just
saying?
They're a weak country who is on its knees, and I think we need to.
Then why are we so afraid of them? Why are they the biggest threat if they're a weak country that's on its knees?
That's a good point. This is a problem they have. And I think it frustrates Cruz because he's never been challenged like this. He's used to saying talking points. And you see this all the time. We've seen this with Russia. Depending on what they're saying, they'll say, oh, Russia's just a weak country. It's about to implode. They're just a gas station with nukes. They have no economy. They're horrible fighters. They're not a threat at all. But then they'll turn around and 5 minutes later say that Russia's a threat to take over the whole world. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You just said they're extremely weak. This isn't adding up. And they do this all the time because they don't think this through. These people like Cruz, they just really speak in talking points. They get these memos and they get talking points to say that have many times been tested in focus groups. And a lot of times they don't even understand what they mean, but they're told to say these phrases.
Knees.
Because they're trying.
I'm trying to keep track.
They're trying to develop. Be a little less snarky.
I know, you're right. That is a problem that I have. I'm sorry.
Well, he was right, though. I mean, he's right. There is nothing that was right there. And it is pretty crazy. So that gives you some of the idea with Cruz. And I think the Republican establishment, they really are surprised how the base is not in the mood for a foreign war, and how the base doesn't just support Israel above everything else. It's just not there anymore. Times have really changed, and I think that is the situation. So it is pretty crazy there. All right, let me just see if I'm caught up on everything. Some of my rants. Always refresh to make sure I got everything. And all right. Well, I went a little long tonight, but it's been a lot of fun. Let me just, I always do, there's this cute cat pic. I want to show you this. This looks just like Garfield. Let me show you this. Garfield, is that you? That does look like Garfield, doesn't it? Look at that cat. Man, nice looking cat. I always do like dog videos. So some people are cat people and they're like, oh, why don't you do some more cat stuff? So I'm like, okay, I'll do some cat stuff. So let me see her. And $20. Hey, we got this. Rams, have you heard invading Iran would not only create a refugee crisis again, but Russia would join them and start World War III? Would the ADL demand those refugees go to Israel or to Europe or America? Yeah, that is an interesting point. I don't think we will invade Iran. I think that we just don't have the forces or the logistics to do that. But who knows? Who knows? And here's, we got 11. So we made the 50 goals. So we will be on Monday, the show. Would you please bring up the video, the orangutan driving a golf cart? We must learn from his attitude and grace. I think I've seen that video. I'll write that down, and the next time I do the show, I'll put that on the end. That was fun. I'll do that. 555, Somburn. What was the fastest mile you've ever ran, track and field wise? Will you ever run for office? I don't know. I never ran track and field, so I don't know what the fastest I could run. I was never a fast runner, so it probably wasn't very fast. And will you ever run for office? No, I like just telling the truth. And I'm not, a lot of times people, they get confused and stuff. I like commentating, but just because you like analyzing the news and talking about stuff doesn't mean you translation to a good politician. So I don't think I will do that. So, but I think I got everything now. So thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to this Friday, but I've been messed up this week. It just feels like a Saturday today. I don't. It's just real odd. But I think because Sasha had Juneteenth off, and it was just weird. But I'll look forward to seeing you guys on Monday, and we'll do the show then. So I look forward to it. Thank you guys, and talk to you guys later. Bye bye.